Thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Tomás Saraceno, an artist, and I would like to tell you a story. It began with a ritual of indigenous community at 3,600 meter altitude in Argentina. It is the Pachamama ritual that celebrates the earth, and when it began, I have to confess, I was shedding tears behind my glasses. At the same time, I was nervous. The Huipala, the flag of the Andean people of South America, was waving too much. The wind was blowing so strongly that I thought we will never going to take off. I could only think of all these people, friends and families, who have traveled all the way here and will not be able to witness the flight. And that day we have to take off, and together we could take a leap for the climate and for this planet Earth. This very moment is what this story is all about. But it all started a long time ago, with the dream of flying, and how this dream of flying had become a nightmare today. When the Montgolfier brothers' hot air balloon lifted a human into the air for the first time in 1783, they used fire to lift into the sky. When the Wright brothers flew for the first time an aeroplane at Kitty Hawk, they used gasoline engines to power the propellers. And Bernard Picard, with a solar impulse, used solar panel to charge lithium batteries.
Mission sequence start.
When the Apollo 11 rockets flew to the moon, it burned kerosene in one of the most dramatic displays of fossil fuel the world has ever seen. But this last flight, 50 years ago, marked not only the moon landing, but it represents an era of flying, an era of human civilization based on patriarchal, nationalistic, and colonial ambitions that have depleted the world. The air suffers from our dream of flying, which turned into our nightmare. Every time you travel across the Atlantic by an aeroplane, you reduce the lifespan of someone else on the planet by 2 years. We thought the Green Revolution could solve the problems of the oil industry have created. Renewable energies, electric cars, solar panels, and we could carry on and on greenwashing our hands. But what is the cost behind this energetic transition? They talk about a new white all too mighty battery powered by lithium. Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile make up what is known as the lithium triangle, with 80% of the world lithium brine reserve. The investment in lithium extraction continues to grow as the demand for lithium increases, especially as foreign governments continue to exert pressure on a move toward greener technologies. To extract 1 ton of lithium with the current method of extraction, we need 2 million liters of water, and these areas are already pretty dry. And in this way, all the communities of plants, animals, and humans will not be able to survive.
Y vio que se está destruyendo todo, las vicuñas se están yendo y el salar está siendo destruido y hay piletones con miles de litros de agua.
Mi padre es el Cerro Chañí, mi madre es Blanca Salina. Mi padre es el Cerro Chañí, mi madre.
These communities are not only defined by their resistance to the lithium mining, they are also defend other ways of conceiving their territory, which rely on care and harmony based on a holistic vision of the relationship between human beings and nature. Everything is connected in the web of life. To care for it, we need to reconnect to it, to reconnect to our planet, to the air of it. Why is it so important to fly differently? Ask yourself, what do you see crossing the airspace today? It's not only indigenous communities that are being threatened, but also this invisible territory we all need to breathe, the air. And today, polluted air has become one of the world's greatest mortality risks. The World Health Organization estimates that 4.6 million people die each year from causes directly attributed to air pollution. Worldwide, more deaths per year are linked to air pollution than the automobile accident, HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria combined. This number is greater than the 1 million deaths registered to this day from COVID-19. Around the cities, the level of pollution is much higher than the stipulated limits. Air pollution is low, grinding, hard to recognize, but it is present. That is why today I talk to you not any longer about the air, but with it. We need to start to understand the air as our collaborator in the web of life. Over the years, we have become literate to issues concerning the ocean, land masses, deforestation, but less so about the air. It is perhaps much more difficult to belong and relate to the air. If we talk about the right of the mountains and the ocean, about the rights of nature, should we discuss the right of the air? We have to ask, what are we breathing today? What is flying in the air? How do we fly? What does it mean to breathe at all? What does it mean to breathe mediated by a face mask? But most importantly, do we all breathe the same air? Today, there is a repeated assault on breath, something that seems such a basic right. From my conversation with the medical anthropologist Henriette Washington, I have come to learn that pollution increases vulnerability to all health risks. Living in neighborhoods exposed to highways, airports, and industrial sources of pollution equates to brutal injustice. We do not all breathe the same air. But today, in time of pandemics, we are brought to a new awareness of the air around us. We feel differently about the air and about what is floating around us. The air we breathe tells us about the world we have created. Particles of pollution, microplastic, viruses that reach our lungs and bloodstreams. The air carries our injustice, our inequality, our patriarchal economies that seems not to be at risk of extinction anytime soon. This is the air of the Anthropocene, or as Jason Moore and others have called it, the Capitol scene. We live in an air apocalypse. A different epoch is needed, one which radically upturns fossil narratives of materiality and re-examine the inscribed notion of property and properties, human and inhuman, of production and subjection. We call it the Aerocene, the era of the air. It is about freeing the air. The story started with Pacha, after which we named this project Fly with Pacha, related to the pre-Columbian cosmovision, where the earth and the cosmos are not to be divided by our human partitions. Fly with Pacha is part of the era we call it Aerocene. It is connected to what lies below and above the Earth's surface, the underground and the less celestial realms, with the furthest reach of the space, united space and time in Andean cosmovisions. And here, our dream of fly had become reality, the Aerocene Pacha Fly, a way of flying with our feet on the ground, faster, forward, a slow movement, every day around ourselves and around the sun. Multiple synchronized journeys made this cosmic web. Up here, on the Grand Salt Lake of 4,700 square kilometers at 3,600 meters high, the ecological struggle for local indigenous community is real. It's existential. And this local struggle is a global one. Things are connected. Our mobile phone and electric car we desire, and that soon will be the industrial standard, is directly connected to these communities. They face erasure from the political sphere. They face the complete depletion and erosion of the lands they have inhabited for over 500 years. These lands are the concession without consent, exploited for the extraction of lithium to power our contemporary culture. They are displaced and endangered by the global desire of connectivity. We must connect differently.
Volando por sobre los Andes va, como tu guardián.
And with this in mind, indigenous nations across the planet account for less than 5% of the global population, and still they protect 80% of its biodiversity. Their everyday environmental struggle formed the theory and praxis of fighting against the degradation and loss of life on this planet. Several years of visiting Jujuy and conversation with the communities, I knew this was the right location for the most revolutionary flight in history. A project to break borders and records. A project that took a local struggle to a global awareness. What if we went on a flight together with these communities? What if our flight turned their message into a common call for action? In January this year, we rewrote the history of flying. We turned the nightmare of flying back into a dream. On January 25th, we flew on a balloon sculpture of 3,000 cubic meters of air. That day, as the sun rose above the horizon, we rose up silently, slowly, with no explosion, no emission, not a single sound other than the wind. We felt as gravity had been inverted. It wasn't pulling towards the center of the earth, but towards the universe. But more than that, when Leticia Marquez, the only licensed female pilot in all Argentina, rose up above us, our dream of flying became real. Without burners, without fossil fuel, without helium, and without solar panels, without battery or lithium, but only with the air of the white salt flats and the heat of the sun. And it is a message to all humanity about the possibility of thinking of a social alternative that do not attack the very fabric of life. Our flight with Pacha was carrying the powerful claim of the local indigenous community. Water and life are worth more than lithium. This moment gave powerful visibility to a new era in which the air became inhabitable, breathable, collaborator to human life. What we achieved is historic. Our Pacha flight broke 32 world records, being the most sustainable flight in human history. It goes back to a special phone call early in 2019. It was from the Korean curator Dae-Yoon Lee with a question. Would you like to do a project with a K-pop band BTS, one of the biggest pop music band in recent history? I must say, I don't know what he was really talking about. Was this real true? Doing whatever I wanted and in such short period of time? But of course, the Aerocene is built on the idea of a community and connectedness to all things living and known. And together with BTS, we could create new communities around our awareness of climate change and the nightmares we have created. The dream started over 20 years ago with a single plastic bag in front of me. Then I thought, what if I could fly with my feet on the ground, conscious of the pollution this planet suffers? What if we imagine a different way to drift and generate a movement that can slow us down as fast as possible? What if not only 2 million people that inhabit the sky with aeroplanes could move differently today? What if a museum could become a flying museum, an alternative reality? And indeed, in 2007, with a community of people all over the world, we began to collect used plastic bags. We cut them, we washed them, we glued them together, and we began to draw on them, creating a huge canvas. What was collectively created was a collective of drawings, of personal stories, and of friendships. And when you join them, bend them, and fold them, you create a space filled with air. Now, when the sun comes up from the horizon, the museum too rises up into the sky. This is our Museo Aero Solar, a testimony of the Aerocene. At COP21, during the Paris Climate Conference, we presented an aerial sculpture that could transport us all over the world, emission-free, to show to the world leaders the scope of our alternative thinking. Thanks to the Aerocene Float Predictor, an app we developed with the MIT, the growing Aerocene community has since traveled over 137 million kilometers free of carbon in nearly 5,000 flights and is active on 6 continents in 43 countries. With the wind, with the people, with the singing of the clouds, the spiders announcing the takeoff, walking, accompanying the pilot and the Pacha balloon and the flights around the sun. And so it was, like a miracle, that Leticia rose into the sky, called by the sun, rose, and then came back down. But her step got bigger and bigger. At first, just 10 centimeters above the ground, then 1 meter, followed by 10 meters, until the last one reached an altitude of 176 meters and flew a distance of 1.7 kilometers for over 21 minutes. The BTS fans have arrived, celebrating our flight, perfect choreography, and synchronized dance step. Was this the same planet as before the takeoff?
Si ese compromiso vinculante genera o puede generar un cambio cultural, que es lo que estamos necesitando, porque acá no son 2 o 3 iluminados los que van a cambiar el mundo, es toda la sociedad la que a través de un consenso, ¿no?, tiene que exigir cambios reales, ¿no?
When Leticia lifted, people said it was as if we all rose in the air with her. Neil Armstrong, walking on the moon, took those long steps, and Leticia did the same, but on this earth ground, quietly, slowly, without explosion or burners. Maybe this was a small step into the air that could be a giant step for this planet and its climate. It seems for the first time we became aware that we flew with and as the planet Earth, with the air we might all begin to breathe. As a cosmic flight that took us far beyond the moon to learn how to live on this planet, in a new era that has just inaugurated, the era of the air, the era of Aerocene.
서로를 불러왔던 것처럼 내 혈관 속 뒤에 네가 말해줘 내가 찾아 헤매던 너라는 걸 우리 만남을 완전 달라 baby 운명을 찾아낸 둘이니까 우주가 생긴 그날부터 계속 무한의 세기를 넘어서 계속 우린 저 생에도 아마도 생에도 영원히 함께니까 이 모든 건 우연이 아니니까 운명을 찾아낸 둘이니까 미안해
I want it this love I want it real love 난 너에게만 집중해 좀 더 세게 나를 이끄네
태초의 DNA 네가 널 원하는데 이건 필연이야 I love it 우리만이 true love it
그녀를 볼 때마다 서술과 책에 놀라 신기하게 자꾸만 숨이 멎는 참 이상한 설마 이런 게 말로만 듣던 사랑이란 감정일까 애초부터 내 심장은 널 향해 두니까
하지 말라 이 모든 건 우연이 아니니까 우리 완전